But anyhow, I want to welcome you to Tuesday Live today. So glad to see all of you joining us. Hello, Marcia Hager, owner and founder of Sealy by Design, along with her beautiful husband, Brad Hager. So glad to see you here as well. We want to talk a little bit about leadership today because we are going to actually be interviewing Marcia's husband, Mr. Brad Hager, the co-founder of Sealy by Design, on Thursday, where he gets to share a lot about his viewpoint on leadership. But for right now, if you would, why don't you just go and let us know if you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay, and then also tell us where you're viewing from. All right, we'd love to see that on there. And if you have any questions at all, my wife Elke actually is inside the house right there manning her computer, and she can answer any of your questions. Or if you're watching the replay, we'll get back with you right away, of course, too. But today I wanted to talk about leadership. Ask yourself, are you a leader? And I will tell you what, every single person walking around this world is a leader in some way, shape, or form, right? Because at least we have to be leading ourselves. And when you find somebody in the really pits of despair, you know that they have given up leading themselves. So leading, it starts with ourselves, right? As Mr. Hager loves to say, a leader of one, leader of many. If I can't lead one, I can't lead any, right? So it all starts within us. But what we're really talking about is, how do you lead others, all right? Maybe, why don't you just share in the comments real quick. Are you in a leadership role, a leadership position within your work? Within your job, or as your role as a family member, right? Maybe you're a parent of your household, right? Of the kids, and maybe you're a mom, maybe you're a dad, maybe you're a single parent, whatever that might be. All those qualify as a leader of something, right? Especially in our jobs. Some people may be a foreman, some people may be an executive, somebody may be a CEO, right? All those require leadership skills. So that kind of brings down, what is leadership? And in the military, I was in the military for over 20 years. Hey, Debbie, good to see you here. Mike as well. Darius. Anyhow, when I was in the military for 20 years, I thought I understood leadership pretty good, right? That's one of the things that we talk a lot about, and it's all about leadership in the military. But guess what? That type of leadership is a different type of leadership. That is what we would call positional leadership. I mean, if the people don't follow my orders when I'm in the military, guess where they're going, right? They could get court-martialed. They could go into the brig, if you will. They could go to Fort Leavenworth, into jail. A lot of bad things, or just get kicked out of the military. So they have a vested interest to follow the orders. That's not real leadership. And in this industry of network marketing that we are doing with Sealy by Design, or anybody else that might be in this industry, I didn't know what real leadership was until I entered into this industry some 20 years ago, and my eyes were made wide open. And why is that? Because in this industry, unlike any other venture that you may take on that I can think of, unless you're doing true volunteer work, is that you really have an all-volunteer army. There's no bosses here. All right. We have leadership from the company. We have leadership with the team leaders. And then each person is leading their own way to success towards their financial freedom. Everybody's required to take on that first level of leadership, which is leading thyself first. But then when you get all these people in there, and you got this team growing of thousands of people. For instance, Brad and Marcia Hager, they had over 250,000 people in their last organizations in 170 countries. You cannot hold that together without extreme leadership, because the thing is, Brad is not their boss in that situation, just like I'm not the boss of our group, or just like a leader in any network marketing company is the boss of their group. There is no positional leadership per se. Yes, you have a team below you, but that team can do whatever they want. It's basically an all-volunteer army. And it's like herding cats. I love that when Jim Rohn explains that about network marketing. It's just like herding cats, because everybody's off doing their own thing. And if you don't have a strong level of leadership to bring them all together and get them focused in on a common goal and help inspire them to see the best within themselves, you're going to look behind you and see nobody there. all right? And then you're not leading. So if nobody's following you, obviously you're not leading. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that kind of philosophy today, because it carries over into anything else. If you are in a position of positional leadership, say the military or with your job, then understanding this skill set is going to catapult your situation. It's going to make you a much better positional leader, because you're going to understand people at a deeper level. And that's the goal, right? I mean, we want to see everybody succeed. We want to see everybody do better. We don't want to see anybody fail. I mean, whether you're in a job, in a company, you want to see your company grow. That's only going to help your situation out. It's going to keep your company around and healthier, right? And the same thing within this industry of network marketing. You want to see people grow. You want to see people successful, because the more successful they are, the more people they're going to be able to influence, right? Now, I've got 3 books here. I actually got 4, all right? But I'm going to cover these 3 first. Mr. Hager is a big, huge John Maxwell fan. He's also friends with him on a personal level now. But 3 of John's books, Brad Hager recommends anybody that he's bringing up through the ranks as a leader that they read. And he suggests you read them in this order. And these are going to be read backwards, of course. But the first one is Developing the Leader Within You, right? Got to lead yourself. Second one is developing the leaders around you, right? Because the whole idea is to be able to pawn off or help educate or help share your wisdom and knowledge of you having walked the walk onto others. So then you want them to become leaders and them to uplift other people and inspire other people, and you pass it down, right? I'm going to cover this here in just a little bit too. But that's developing the leaders around you. And then this is my personal favorite of all of John Maxwell books. You know, if you read a lot of John Maxwell books, he tends to repeat himself again and again and again, especially in his later books. All of his power is in these 3 books. And this one is by far my favorite, and that is The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. This book is dynamite, all right? So a lot of Brad Hager's influence and leadership is from him and a lot of other people that Brad and I have talked about over the years, especially this past year, that have greatly influenced him. But what I really wanted to do, and ask yourself, hey, why don't you just drop in the comments right now if you are in a positional leadership, like with your job or something along those lines, or you see yourself as a leader within the family. All right, and then ask and share with us any sort of leadership challenge you've had, and then how have you been able to overcome that, all right? And what you did, what was your, by accident or on purpose, what was your plan that allowed you to overcome that leadership challenge, all right? But this book, this is one of my personal favorite books on leadership. It's called Launching a Leadership Revolution. It's by Orrin Woodward and Chris Brady. They actually own their own network marketing company. They were really big in Amway back in the day. They became very successful. They left Amway and they started their own company. But they put down their pearls of wisdom of what it took them to build a network marketing business. So this has got a network marketing background or feel to it, but it is for anybody in the realms of leadership. You will find a lot of John Maxwell's philosophies in here, and that's one of the reasons, is because those are proven philosophies of leadership, right? It's not that necessarily John Maxwell invented it, but he has been able to hone it in a way to help the average person understand it. And that's what I feel about this book too. It's got a lot of great nuggets in there. You know, John Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. And it is so very true. And we talk about reading. We talk about personal growth. And there's a quote in this book, in this Launching a Leadership Revolution, that I just was glossing through this book this morning, preparing for this. And I love this quote. It says, personal growth is not an option for a leader. You know, they say readers are leaders and leaders are readers, or leaders are readers and readers are leaders, all right? Because they go hand in hand. You can't be a leader, effective, productive leader, without also reading and growing yourself, right? It starts with us, right? Taking that responsibility and leading ourselves. So this quote says, personal growth is not an option for a leader. The Bible says that we'll never be given more than we can handle, right? Therefore, If we want more, we must develop the capacity to handle more. And I think that is one of the greatest quotes as to the importance of leadership as you develop teams anywhere around the globe, whether it's in your own family life or if it's in, the job, or if it happens to be in network marketing as well. Now, one of the principal concepts that this book I just love is called the Trilateral Leadership model. All right, Trilateral Leadership Ledger. That's their official term for it. And what is that? One of the things, and if you ever have done reading on leadership and trying to understand and define a leader, all right, you can define what a leader is. But in the walks of your life, if you've been around for 20, 30 years, think about high school and your teachers, right? You knew you had some teachers that you looked up to as a leader. You had other teachers that you never wanted to take a course with them again, right? So what was the difference? And you'd feel it, but how do you quantify it? And that's what this book lays out, a way to quantify a leader. And when I read this, because I look back on my 20 years of military experience and being in a leadership role with that, I know I have a lot of friends here on Facebook that were commanders, and I have one friend who's a 3-star general now. I do believe, and I really hope, Gus, you're going to go on to be the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. You absolutely deserve it, because he's the epitome of everything that leadership is. He wraps this thing up from Maxwell to this. He's one of the greatest leaders I've ever met in my life, and he's a peer. All right, we started out in the military basically at the same time. He's still in the military now. And like I said, I foresee him becoming the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. Goldfein is it right now. I've served with his brother. I served under him for a very brief time at the Triple Nickel in Aviano. So I've been around some really great leaders, right? But how do you identify what makes them a standout, right? You know it when you see it. You know it in your heart when you feel it. How do you quantify it? So let me break it down for you. This is what this book does so eloquently and so simply. They come up with this trilateral leadership level. And I actually wrote this backwards so you could read it. Huh? Not bad, eh? All right, so the first one is character, the second one is task, and the third one is relationships. So how do you use this? Character, task, and relationships. Well, you scale each one of those columns. You rate each one of those columns, that person in that column, on a scale from 1 to 10. Okay? So 10 being, so I'm not going to try to write this backwards now. All right, but 10 here would be absolutely the epitome of character. All right? It's unattainable. Task, at 10 is the epitome of being able to be task-oriented, knows his job. Relationships, at 10, epitome of being able to build and maintain relationships, right? And then what you do, 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. So this becomes a scale. And the perfect number would be 1,000. There's probably only one person ever walked this planet that would achieve 1,000, and that's Jesus, all right? But that aside, for the actual average human being, they ain't happening, all right? But what we can find is people of great character. Great people who are awesome at their task, and then people that are awesome in relationships. And one that is balanced out in all three of these, holy cow, that's when you have a leader. So what are some of the examples of character? All right, character is about honesty. It's about integrity. It's about courage, proper values based on absolute truths, faith, a humble spirit. Oh, that is so important, I believe. Patience with others. Couldn't we all use a little bit more patience at times, right? Discipline and self-mastery. So that's character. How about tasks? Acceptance of responsibility. That's taking that personal responsibility. It starts with us. And then the work ethic that goes with it, right? Availability. Are you working behind closed doors? Do you bark orders out, but then you're not there to actually mentor and teach people? Willingness to invest time, not only into yourself, but into others as well. Tenacity, never giving up, constantly seeking the goal, helping other people seek that vision, right? Perseverance and execution. And then the last three of the three is relationships. And that's accepting people, approving of people, appreciating people, right? You know, with our system and our company Sealy by Design, which we covered last week with or 2 weeks ago with Mr. Hager, one of those things, one of those parts in the wheel to keep it rolling smooth and rather getting a flat spot is, and he believes probably the largest piece of the puzzle of a system, is recognition, right? So appreciating people, approving people, seeing the good in people, encouraging people, all of this comes under recognition. Just by accident that Mr. Hager sees that as one of the most profound avenues of the system in our company. Caring for and about people, putting others first, seeking win-win arrangements, right? You always praise your people in public, and if you have any kind of constructive criticism, a teaching moment, you never do that in public, right? You respect and you honor those people. You pull them aside and have a very constructive conversation, getting their permission to be able to speak into that first. Helping people accomplish tasks, and then living the golden rule, right? So without drawing it out, I'm just going to kind of show you a picture. So you rate a person on character, tasks, and relationship as to how they fall into that. So somebody rates really high in character, maybe you give them a 7 or an 8. You know, it depends. It's all relative, right? It's all subjective. And then on tasks, same thing. How is this person? How well does he know his job? And then on relationships, how good is he at building relationships, maintaining those relationships, recognizing others for their tasks and their job? Are you one of those people just shut up and color, or do you actually elicit input from the others? You know, it doesn't mean you got to accept it, but at least elicit. You might learn something too, even as a leader, right? So there's a lot of great ideas out there, and you don't want to stuff it. You know, in Think and Grow Rich, he talks a lot about the mastermind. And it is very important to have a mastermind. 2 people make up a mastermind. 3, 4 makes it even better, right? When you bring people into that sphere of influence. Well, in that mastermind, you got a lot of A-type of personalities. Somebody naturally is going to be the leader of that group, all right? And maybe that's a positional because they began it. But then there's also going to be the informal leader, the one that's rates high in all 3 of those areas, right? Just because one person started that mastermind doesn't mean that he's the best leader for that group. All right. The informal leader always rises, right? Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, so leadership is huge. So here's the thing about this trilateral leadership ledger that I absolutely love. When you multiply a 0 times anything, what do you get? You certainly don't get 1,000, right? You get 0. So you can have somebody that's utmost in character. You know, these first 2, he rates super high in character. He's very super job knowledge, but he has absolutely 0 people skills. Well, if he wrote an 8 and a 7 here and times 0, you end up with a score of a goose egg, a big 0. If it's a 1, it's going to be a really slow level, right? So what you're looking for is a balanced. You're looking for something up here rather than something like that, right? Where you're ranking high, maybe in character, lower in tasks. But it could be any one of these. Maybe this guy's super good at his task, super good at relationship, but the guy's a shyster, right? And he doesn't respect others, doesn't respect himself, and that ranks really low. His overall score is going to be low. But if you can get these up around a 7, if you rate somebody, think back in your history of your school teacher, your favorite boss, your favorite leader anywhere, your favorite parent, anywhere in your life, where somebody has made an impact in your life, and then go through and rate them on character, task, and relationship. And then do the same thing for somebody who was a horrible leader, somebody you couldn't stand to work for. Maybe it's your current boss right now. Hey, if you want out of your current job because you don't like your boss, we have a solution for you, right? We're helping all kinds of people do that. We got all kinds of money on the table right now. You can get started with a free membership. Anyhow, I circle back around, right? But let us know, because I'm telling you, if you want to chuck your boss, we have a way to do that, possibly a lot quicker than you may even believe. We've got amazing leadership in this company. And if I was to rate Brad Hager and Marcia Hager on this scale, they're up there in the 8s and 9s across the board. That's the reason why I personally seeked Brad out. The first time I ever saw Brad speak on a stage, I didn't know the man. I had seen him first in Phoenix in a small gathering at a business briefing. I was very impressed by him and this other gentleman he had with him who went on to make $9 million. He was a pool boy. I mean, he drove around his car with the pool stuff sticking out of the windows and everything. And he got hooked up with Brad Hager, and Brad Hager mentored him to earning something like about $8 or $9 million while they were with the Hagers. That's why I knew that this guy, Mr. Hager, was something very, very special. And I wanted to latch onto him, but I didn't know him, right? So I kept pushing myself to get into the forefront and somehow work my way into his corner where he would lock arms with me and go, okay, guy, because of your persistence, because of your character, because of your task ability, because of your ability to build relationships and to be able to, your tenaciousness, I'll tell you what, we'll go ahead and latch arms and let's go ahead and let's take you to that, become that $1 million earner. And I'm taking everybody with me. I want everybody on our team to get the good stuff directly from Mr. Hager. So I did that though through persistence. And if you remember in the book, the very beginning of Think and Grow Rich, and I apologize, I don't remember the name offhand, but he did the same thing, right? He gets on a train with his last few dollars to become part of Edison's, to work with Edison firsthand in his workshop, and he did it, and he went on to make millions of dollars with Thomas Edison. So it's possible for anybody. So if you don't have that leader in your life right now, first become one yourself, right? And then seek the leader that you desire to become and find their guidance, find their mentorship, find a way to connect with them, let them know your desire, your tenacity, and then lock arms with them, all right? Find somebody that's already been where you desire to go. And that leads me to the last point. They've got in this book, the other thing that they talk about is the 5 levels of leadership. Hey, if you're liking any of this stuff, send me some hearts, send me some likes. Let me know if I'm on track or not. I know I'm going a little bit longer than normal, but this is such an in-depth topic, and this is the reason why I'm also so excited for all of you to be able to be on this live on Thursday with Mr. Hager, where we're going to be talking about, my lighting is going here. Let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. I'll just do this. Where if you could be on the live on Thursday at noon Pacific Standard Time and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because you're going to get to hear it from Mr. Hager himself. But before I go, I wanted to share this 5 levels of leadership that these guys talk about in this book, Launching a Leadership Revolution. And these five levels are: you first become a student, you're learning, right? Hey, Michael Bender out of New Jersey. Denise, I'm sorry I haven't really said hi to everybody. Thank you, Marcia, appreciate that. Kim Buzek, oh my God, my best friend from high school is on here. Love you, Kim. Anyhow, so the 5 levels of leadership goes something like this. The first thing is you become a student and you're learning. And then from there, you start performing, and that's competence, right? And then from competence, you move on to leading, where you're actually starting to influence others, right? I mean, John Maxwell likes to say leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. However, you can negatively impact and influence people, right? So that needs a little bit more clarification than just that simple sentence. It's a great tagline, but negatively impacting somebody's life is also influencing them. So you got to be careful with that, right? So when you're leading, influencing people towards attaining a goal, attaining a worthwhile objective, which means is the definition of success, then you're leading with influence in a positive direction. So that's the 3rd step, right? The first step is being a student yourself. Second step is start performing those tasks, right? In the Trilateral Leadership Ledger. The 3rd one is actually becoming a leader, where you start to influence others. And then it's developing others into leaders. And this is where Mr. Hager really starts to shine. As you guys in our company with Sealy by Design, as you get to really plug in and you start learning more and more of what Mr. Hager is all about, it is about developing others into leaders. And our goal is to do that with others, and we're teaching our leaders to do that with their people and teach it down again and again and again. But this 5th level of leadership that they talk about in this book, Boy, very few attain this. Now, Mr. Hager has attained it, right? Because he's leaving a legacy behind him. 20 people have gone on to be millionaires in this industry. You cannot be a millionaire in this industry unless you yourself are a leader. So what Mr. Hager does very, very well is this number 5 level of leadership, and that is develop leaders who develop leaders, who develop leaders, who develop leaders. And when you do that, you leave behind a legacy. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. I do appreciate everybody watching. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to say hi to everybody as you came on, but we love you all. I do appreciate, this is my 1-year anniversary of my dad's death. Whoa, that just snuck up on me. And I do appreciate everybody's kind comments in my morning's post. So we love you all. Go out there, knock them dead. If you're not in Sealy by Design, what are you waiting for? This is the good stuff we're going to teach you. You can apply it to every aspect of your life. We've got testimonies even on that from people. David Schlenger, who is a master at his job. He runs an international logistics company in sales. And he's been with us working this hard and heavy for about 2 months, or not hard and heavy, but for the last month. But the 2 months he's actually been plugged in. And he says from what he has learned from Mr. Hager on down has already majorly impacted his work at his job. Join us, please. You will not be sorry. If you don't make a dime with us, you will at least grow as an individual if you plug in. But I tell you, we'll help you make a lot of money too. So, all right, no income claim. Got to say that. Anyhow, we love you all. All right, bye-bye. Have a great week. We'll see you on Thursday. Don't forget, Thursday, noon Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Mr. Hager and get his philosophy on leadership. Bye-bye now.